taken the time as citizens to understand how our government works before they ever go to Washington. You see, it should be a process that starts in infancy and works its way up, and everybody should be taking part in the government.
Now, if someone came in to office with this kind of knowledge and with this kind of intent to really push these people out, would they not be eliminated immediately?
Not if they have the people behind them, because what the people would do in one fell swoop, in one election, would elect people who've never served in government before, kick the incumbents out, send citizens to Washington. And here's the way it has to be done. You know, right now, you don't even pay your congressman. You know who pays your congressman? The federal democracy of the District of Columbia. The federal government pays your congressman, who's supposed to be representing your state and you. The federal government is a foreign country to your state. Why should he represent you?
All right. Welcome back to the Patriot Hour. All right, folks, got another little article I wanted to get in here. Neon Revolt. It's been a while since I've checked in on his site. I used to follow it quite a bit. Done a few episodes in the past. December 17th, Junior Senator Anon heralds legal revelations for Q Researcher, hashtag Q Researchers plus advent of the Q March, hashtag QAnon Great Awakening, Neon Revolt. I know I said no new articles while I write my book, but this was quick to produce. Normally I can fit a handful of images into a short Gab post, but this was too long to squash into Gab. And let's face it, there have been a slew of new Q posts I haven't covered. Let me see where I stopped there. Right here, a slew of new Q posts I haven't covered. They haven't needed much decoding. The posts that got me the most excited were his earthquake post and the post about the Fed. And the post that got me the most skeptical was when QAnon confirmed that the baker was wearing a frog pin when she was clearly wearing a St. Jude's pin. I don't know if Q didn't know himself, but it reminded me of the time when he talked about photoshopped flag as though it was real. Not good, Q. But we're not here to talk about Q today, at least not yet. No, we're visiting another insider who left some interesting drops worth reviewing. Essentially, someone calling himself hashtag Junior Senator Anon landed on Political Tonight and started a Q&A. The POL board lax jumped on board, and after reviewing everything, I would say this was a visit from a legit insider. Obviously, feel free to disagree. This comes with all the standard disclaimers. What follows are all the questions asked by Anons and which were then answered by the Junior Senator Anon. Expect all sorts of offensive language ahead because it's political board. So just put on your big boy pants and learn to mentally filter and not get offended. And I'll do my best to try to, just use abbreviations and start whining like, well, hashtag crybaby Gerald Holt or hashtag Soros rent boy Jordan. I'm more interested in Junior Senator Anon and what he had to say, but also realize this isn't going to be like QAnon either. This isn't someone with high-level security clearance leaking stuff. It's someone with a very close, on-the-ground perspective answering random questions on the fly. Still interesting. Still worth noting. But the big revelation hits home at the end. Once Q Research Anon start talking about what they were just told in light of the recent events. I'll be keeping commentary to a minimum here, only when absolutely necessary. I'll trust most of you familiar with the formatting as well. But Junior Senator Anon's ID is L2 lowercase c GMWKR. And generally speaking, the question and context will be embedded within his response. You'll see it's easy to follow once you get the hang of it. All right, so I haven't really read this article other than just a few minutes worth, and I was like, hey, let's get this going. Okay, so here we go. This is an anonymous. Here's his highlighted in green or yellow up here, his L2C. handle. General Flynn will be exonerated. The Mueller probe is going to end very, very soon. Expect HRC to be indicted in the coming weeks. BO shortly after. AMA while I have time. So we got anonymous. What was the holdup? Lawmaker guy, Strzok's phone. Wiping it stalled the process. NSA had to get involved to recover what was on the device. Consistent with what I've heard about them having to pull something from Samsung Knox, which is a security program on Samsung devices. All right, we got him here. So Flynn is the maker? Yes. Marker? Yes. An anonymous here. What do you know about Knight Templar? What do you know about accelerationism? What are the odds Trump goes full Andrew Jackson and ousts and call for a militia? I can't help but observe he has literally army of pissed off white males. Is he aware of the JQ? Thanks. Ha ha ha, no militia, but he will audit the Fed and likely abolish it. L2C GM again. An anonymous post a picture here, FBI. Why isn't the NSA getting the records of Comey and Mueller's phones? You bet these two DNC hacks have been chatting about their plans to overthrow the president like the giddy sissies they are. They are. So that's happening. L2C2. So we got this OF. What that wouldn't take more than 10 seconds for the NSA to pull up you queer. Do you know how difficult it is to get a hold of records? If that was the case, most people in Washington would be in prison. All right. Hold on here. So we talked about that, folks. They rely on the fact of secrecy too. Like, so if Peter Strzok was involved in, how do we know this grand jury hasn't already been impaneled? We were told that from Q way back, almost, March. So maybe it was impaneled then. And then they had all these people all summer long going in front of Congress. We had Peter Strzok do that. Did he lie? Even though he wasn't under oath, if you say everything in that manner to Congress, it's on TV, you're saying it to the people, and then they already have other evidence that he has said other things, but they want him to go on the record first, publicly, and get all that out. And then when he comes in for an interview behind the scenes, behind closed doors, and then they can say, well, you said this. And then, they present him with things he really said in text messages, and now you lied what you said. Well, I wasn't under oath. Is that what they stick by? I only tell the truth if I have to. Like right now. I mean, to admit if they have something on him to the public would just admit his guilt. Well, how does that end? Does he leave out of the courtroom that day in handcuffs? I mean, so of course you're going to lie. But maybe they wanted them to be on the record doing it for show, for us. So when it comes out, they have something to point back to and say, look, this is what he said. This is what he really did. There is no, it's a clear cut. So they rely on the fact until something will come out. See, they're hoping at any minute Trump can get impeached. The right people will get in there to cover all this up. The right people put in place, and then all this goes away for them. That's all they got left. If they've done stuff so bad, there is no admitting you lie and hope that something at the last minute helps you so where you don't go down. You can delay your going down. Otherwise, if you know you've done bad, you're going to go down the minute you admit, or you wait until they just force it down your throat that you're wrong and did bad. So how difficult is it to get a hold of these records? It's do you know how difficult? If that was the case, most people in D.C. would be in prison. Congress and on. I don't like the Capone angle, getting them tax fraud, etc. I want them to hang for pedo stuff. Will my prayers be heard? Junior Senator Anon, actually. So that's all you've said back to that. Congress and on, I don't like the Capone. Not everyone will go down for pedophile. It's so difficult when I'd say 40% of Washington has committed said crimes. Those who committed treason, however, they will be very easy to indict. Comey, Barack Obama, HRC, BC, Bill Clinton, Brennan, and many others who worked in the DOJ. Like I would add Loretta, several others. So we got Anonymous here again. So basically he is not racially aware? Does he not think, given the history books of the Bolsheviks and the German elite families, that they don't immerse hatred for him and his family? Or is he just sided with the Jews against white America? Just curious if he is just out of touch with the working class America and the history of its conscious decision to F us over. What world do you live in? Do you really think there's going to be a racial cleanse in the United States? I'm sorry, but it's not going to happen. The country would fall apart as we know it. All right, so then we got, is the market setting up for a dip? And if so, should we buy the drop? No, it would be fine. I think he's very wrong on this front. The market looks set up for a spectacular crash here, one which only requires a little push, perhaps from a peso sell-off. Hard to say, of course, but that's just my personal opinion. All right, that is Neon Revolt. Back to the anonymous. Also, this is just an anonymous question. Also, I couldn't help but notice you dodged all the tough questions which his base would be most interested in. Most of us here aren't just going to blindly continue to believe him like Q-tards, and the rest of the country seem to be turning on him as well. If you're a real deal, I would expect he needs to be loyal to his base if he expects any back. Otherwise, I don't have any sympathy that he just keeps getting stabbed in the back by every Jew he surrounds himself with. Tell him we said grow some effing balls and quit acting like a little bee about shit. I've answered almost every question. I'm not telling you to support him or trust in him. Do as you please. I'm simply telling you what's going on. He's no saint, but he's trying. He has 6 more years to make you guys happy. All right. Anonymous here. LARP detected. Market is setting up for a significant drop right now. I didn't say bear, or else Trump and media would be not spinning alternative narratives about why it's dropping. It's tariffs. No, it's the Fed. It is the Fed. If you can't realize that, I don't know what else to tell you. Anonymous. The Jews certainly have the balls too. So yes, I think it'll happen. I just don't think it'll be you. That's great. I'm still hearing stuff talk here. Hold on. All right. OP, will the Jews accept white nationalists? You see what we are dealing with here. I cannot identify with these Jaiwam, and who can see Trump wouldn't either. This is foul language here. Israel influence is something I'm not a fan of. Sadly, they're the only ally we have in the Middle East. Their mess is something we should have never been a part of in its first place. You can't expect us to regulate Hollywood and media. I assume that is what is leading you to believe there's a white genocide. Because of the degeneracy it promotes. I get it. I get that. But let the free market decide for itself. How about you pursue a career in media and dismantle it from the inside? That's the only way something like that can be stopped. I would hope at the very least that we would expunge CIA and Mossad influence from Hollywood and maybe ban pornography on public health grounds. That's Neon Revolt. What was up with the sealing off of the whole floor of the courthouse? Rumors are they're getting a case moved from Article 3 to Article 1 court or something like that. Exactly as you said. This was the post that attracted the most attention. I posted these images to Gab on Friday because, yeah, you may have heard an entire court floor was sealed off for a mysterious case. All right, we went over that. We know journalists were swept away, the doors were locked, and guards were put in place. Reporters kicked off the 5th floor entirely for a sealed appeals hearing that may involve Mueller on a grand jury dispute. There are even searching stairwells for reporters. We have split up and trying to cover all entrances and exits. So he just shows tons of stuff, tons of cases. You see all the official entire DC federal courthouse sealed off. Well, we'll get to what Anon's discovered about this at the end of the drops. Got an anonymous here. Trust Sessions. Trust the plan. Let me see. All right. Hoping the music wasn't too loud, folks. I just realized it was up a little bit, but I turned it down a little more. Lame, but everyone is entitled to their opinions. All right. I'm not surprised a junior Senator Anon doesn't know the details of the plan. Okay, there is no music on. All right, perfect. You're right. There it is. I didn't have the actual button push, but the lever was up pretty high. Lame, but everyone is entitled to their opinions. So he's not surprised that junior Senator Anon doesn't know the details. Trump can barely start work by noon, implying his old ass is in running for 2020 is rich. The man barely sleeps. I strongly disliked him for many months, but his work ethic is second to none. He earned my respect. He has had 6 more years to make you guys happy. Not if he doesn't get some shit done in the next 2 years. Fair enough. We sure as hell can, when they are regulating our speech and when they preach openly about feeding us out of existence and do one brown race. Yeah, F this cuck stuff. This guy goes on. Well, regulating them when they violate free speech is something we can do. We are working on it. We can't stop them from promoting sex, drugs, etc. That's just the way it is. I don't know what this guy's talking about. Internet Bill of Rights. What was in those envelopes and messages at the funeral? I really have no idea. I couldn't tell you. I've seen people online going crazy over it, but it hasn't been brought up around here. What specifically is HRC going to be charged with? Gee, lots of things. Treason, money laundering, war crimes, you name it. She is truly the most corrupt individual to step foot in Washington. Everybody knows it. All this means you are incapable of scared to do what needs to be done. 1, martial law. 2, militia. Matter of national security at this point. The only reason he doesn't is he's scared, or he just doesn't care about America as much as his Jewish cabal. If what you are saying is true, this country is utterly effed. Having said that, does one join the Jews in such a scenario? How does one join the Jews in such a scenario? Martial law is not out of the question, but you're asking me if the President Trump would call citizens to arm and particularly go to war with minorities. That's never going to happen. Yeah, so which of the myriad crimes are you actually going to be able to nail her on? Money laundering would be the most obvious and easiest, but with that said, many other things could be brought to light during a trial. You never know. The foundation is just the beginning, folks. It will lead to many, many other things. We all know that. Lots of things will come to light. Oh boy, this lawmaker doesn't even know who's behind the curtain. Not our greatest ally, in my opinion. They are the worst. The Middle East is a very complex situation. It's nice to have allies, but the United States as its own and best ally at the end of the day, in my opinion. Thanks for visiting, Anon. Around half of the U.S. population are asleep. Despite last week's revelations, many of these people believe Obama, Hillary, and Comey can do no wrong. Assuming arrests will happen and military tribunals begin being held, what is the plan to quell and resulting public unrest? Is there a plan to wake up those who still believe in Saint Obama? If citizens are stupid enough to riot and protest in support of treasonous criminals, then martial law is the only option. It's not something I want. I'd actually be very disappointed and ashamed if we had to. All right, so we all know martial law is I've heard channels say they like all the Q stuff, it's great, but when they get to the martial law part, they get scared because martial law has been put into a lot of our heads from the Hollywood movies and how they do it. It's always against us, taking guns and coming door to door, and we're moving around in real operated times during the day, and you have to go through border checkpoints with tanks and military, and they got guns, and I always ask, do you support the Constitution? And people are like, well, yeah. And then, well, martial law is in there. I had to point that out to a few people in my life, and they're like, what? And if you look at it, it talks about civil unrest, and I don't promote it, and I don't want it, and we don't want to live under that. But we've already been living under forms of martial law since implementation of all these things that we're under already. Of course, the movie scenario of it is really devastating, and that's what makes most people scared. But if this martial law is coming into effect to take down people that are corrupt in this country, and it's not going to affect much of us, and if it's only for a short amount of time, And they're not coming around collecting guns at that point. There's lots of things that have to happen to make it a tainted scenario. So what I'm saying is there's martial law that can be inflicted against all the people, and then there's a martial law that just, is infected or put out for a few days or a week, couple weeks, and it does. There's some stuff put out, but it's not really affecting the citizens that have done nothing wrong. It's there for our safety and for these pockets of people that would be rioting and causing issues. And I can probably name them, LA, Chicago, New York, places like that would be the biggest probably issues. Yeah, same here, but we don't underestimate the left's collective stupidity. Never underestimate the large group of stupid people in one group. Anonymous, not go to war with anyone. I want to see the war against us stopped. We are being ethnically genocided by forced integration. I agree with you wholeheartedly. But again, that's up to the people to solve the problem, not the government. We have been pushing so hard to protect our sovereignty and keep out unwanted immigrants. It's all we can really do. In my mind, what you're saying really couldn't be a problem if the government was shrunk and local government had more influence. And in a perfect U.S., we could segregate ourselves, live where we want to amongst people like-minded and similar people. Can that be achieved at some point? Absolutely. Can it happen overnight? No. I got to ask you guys out there on the live chat, you're not hearing anything but me, right? Just let me know. Other than maybe a little music or something. I'm hearing some weird stuff come through my headphones, and I don't know if I got something else playing. I keep looking. I'm not seeing any videos. All good, only me. All right. Just making sure I'm hearing something. All right. So it's about time for me to redo my computer. That'll take a day. That's when I normally go down for a day. So it's coming up. I got to do it. Slight music, perfect. That's what we want. Just music, a little bit of background, see, I'm cranking it up, but I'm gonna bring it back down. No, I'm hearing talking, either my voice being repeated, which is weird, and that's when I know it's time. I normally redo my computer 3 to 4 times a year. I nuke it all the way down, bring it back up, and it just keeps me peppy, keeps the computer working great. I've always done that. I don't go 5 years, and just clean it up here and there. I take it down. All right, so can it happen overnight? Say something bad about Israel. OP, if you can't, we know you're F. Aiding Israel is a waste of money and despicable in my eyes. Anything else related to Europe? Besides the UK setting up people in the Trump campaign? No, nothing really. Interesting to see Junior Senator Anon basically advocating for ethnic balkanization of the U.S. might be inevitable. Honestly, tribalism is a powerful instinct ingrained in humanity. It creates high-trust societies. That's hard to overcome. What will be done about all the media that is obviously complicit in their crimes and have peddled the Russia frame job? I'm guessing they will be eaten alive by leftists for tricking them so bad. But is there any plan to deal with the mockingbird media? In my honest opinion, CNN and MSNBC will go out of business. 2 years of promising the arrest of president. What reason will people have to watch anymore? It all comes down to the news coverage. If it's fair, they won't riot. If they tell people Trump is arresting political opponents, they will. That's simple. Indeed, if the coverage is in favor of the criminals, we have truly lost what was our country. If you aren't 100% sure that the media will spin it as Trump being literally Hitler and hailing his political opponents, then what effing world do you live in, Senator? When there's hard evidence that will lead to an indictment followed by a prison sentence, I would pray to God Almighty they cover it fairly. Did I say they would? No, I didn't expect them to. But they said they would have to realize they would be out of business when this is all said and done if it's not covered fairly. Can Anon tell us anything about what happened to Senator Rand Paul the day he was allegedly beaten by his neighbor? His ribs were damaged. I don't buy the story. Ha ha ha, I hear his neighbor was just an asshole. What about human trafficking? The evidence is all over. Laura Geyer, the 2 journos in North Korea, etc.? Or does that cut too close in the bone for the Illuminati? Sure, look into Haiti. Like I said, amidst trial, lots of things can come out. So during trial, lots of things are going to come out. We looked into Haiti far more than the Jews in our current government. It doesn't patronize us. I didn't mean that in a condescending way. Sorry if you took it like that. I know this board has done pretty solid work regarding her mishandlings and crimes. But with that said, you folks go down rabbit holes that lead to nowhere. Not all the time, but sometimes. All roads lead to Rome. True, politics aside for a second, and a little personal opinion. As a Christian, I'm greatly ashamed of the Vatican. I don't know the whole story from what I've read. It just looks sad. Read the book, An Open Letter to Confused Catholics. Lays everything out pretty well. When there's hard evidence that there will lead to an indictment followed by a prison sentence, I would pray to God Almighty they cover it fairly. Did I say they would? No, I didn't expect them to. But they would have to realize they'd be out of business when this is all said and done if not covered fairly. Fiat accompli. Fate, huh? Not sure. I'm sure some of you know what that means. Leave it down below. I didn't mean that in the condescending way. Sorry if you took it that way. We go down the rabbit holes. I understand. That is why I wish it wasn't that way. We go down rabbit holes because you don't think people are good enough for the truth. We are left guessing and believing all sorts of BS because we all know for certain that is our government on both sides of the aisle have been effing us for decades. I understand that, and I wish it wasn't that way. How do you see the GOP being able to hold on to Texas? It seems they might be turning blue overnight. It'd be nice if folks in California would stop moving in Texas, or at least stop voting the same exact way they did in California, which led them to move there in the first place. It's pretty mind-boggling if you ask me. That's the most annoying thing about California right now. They've turned their state into a burning hellhole, and now they're expecting the same ideas. They're bringing these same ideas, exporting them out of there, and doing it all again. I said that months ago. The people that helped turn California that way, and now they're all moving out because they don't like it, and they're going somewhere else, and they're doing it again. It blows my mind. Expecting different results, doing the exact same thing. Can you answer my question? I know people who died, and it's infuriating to be treated like an idiot despite massive evidence and consistency in official reporting. Which ally did 9/11? I wasn't in government during 9/11, and I have as many questions as you. Do I have my suspicions? Of course. It wasn't in government during 9/11, okay? Cop-out. I'm really sorry. I know it's a letdown. I see a lot of QAnons as I'm scrolling through the thread. Haha. Also, sorry if you think I'm ignoring some questions. I'm trying to answer as many as possible. I'll stay here for a little longer. I see a lot of QAnons as I'm scrolling through the thread. Unfortunately, the Patriot Act is necessary. You know what would make the Patriot Act obsolete? Ending immigration and kicking out everyone who can't pass a lie detector test. America's largely unsalvageable without a civil war, in my honest opinion, Unfortunately, the Patriot Act is necessary. No. F that. That is the single most unconstitutional piece of legislation ever passed in the history of our effing country, along with the NDAA. F that. Our founding fathers are rolling in their effing graves. Necessary my effing ass. Took the words right out of my mouth. I am happy the NSA is helping in regards to this case, sure, but in general, I wish they never existed. I'll bet I'd rather have the military surveil than the FBI or CIA. Regardless, it's unconstitutional. Ask you anything, okay, what the F are you smoking? Marlboro Reds. Can you ask Trump to come out as gay so that he will be first gay president? Ha ha ha, come on, that would be pretty classic though. Thanks for the laugh. Here, I'll give you one question. Which of the following is your best estimate of probability that Trump will get to replace get a replacement in for the Ruth Ginsburg in 2019? 99, 50, 10, 1? G, maybe 50. I'm not going to wish death on a woman. She isn't healthy though, so that's very likely. I mean, to be fair, she looks like she's ready to croak at any moment. How much longer do you guys want me to keep going? I'm actually having a good time. How many good people are in politics? I know there are no saints, but how many politicians are actually in their position to help us, the people? There's a good amount. My favorite people around Congress from smaller areas are congressmen from smaller areas. They seem the most human and try to be involved. Speaking of Supreme Court Justice, what was your take on BK? Brett Kavanaugh. Sounds like we just signed up for more U.S. citizen spying and data collection. Can't say I'm the biggest fan in the world, but it's better than a progressive. I'm going to call it quits for the night, my friends. If I ever post again, how can I let you know it's me? If there's no possibility, I appreciate most of you taking the time to hear me out and ask questions. He can't really. I mean, he'd have to establish his credibility somehow, but even then, without trip code, it's a crapshoot. That said, go back to that post where Junior Senator Anon confirmed that the case was getting moved from Article 3 to make an Article 1 count. Article 1 are basically military courts created by Congress, given the powers granted to it by Article 1 of the Constitution, thus its name, Article 3. Courts are more what we normally think of as regular courts, from Supreme Court down to the district courts, the judicial branch of things. In other words, a military case was getting converted into a judicial case. Now who could require such treatment? Anons expand their thinking over on the Q board. Lawfag here, very interesting post here on the latest secret court battle. The poster claims it was a dispute about transfer of a case. To be honest, I never heard of that, and a quick look offers no easy answer, but we'll dig. So again, we got things going down that have never happened, or if this is all true, like we all believe it to be, folks, there is no other things to look at to see how this actually it could happen. It's all out of the box. It's all new, or been so long, and nothing of this magnitude. So that's what he's talking about there. Trying to look up other things. So found what I wanted. The Article 1 courts are set up with their implied powers given to Congress in Article 1. SCOTUS keeps a close and jealous eye on these to limit their use and not permit infringement on the judicial branch. Congress has a whole slew of these courts: tax court, veterans appeals, claims versus Fed, bankruptcy, but most noteworthy is a Court of Military Commission Review. United States Court of Military Commission Review reviews military commission cases submitted to the court. The court is comprised of panels of at least 3 appellate military judges. The court was created in 2009 after Congress passed the Military Commissions Act of 2009, which allowed the rights of the accused in the military commissions to be expanded. These posts are correct, and the dispute centers on the fight is whether or not to transfer a Mueller inquiry to the military court. Don't know who is pushing what yet. Apparently, some Anons did not read the initial post. Anon posted a thread with a person claiming to be an elected official and stating that the secret proceedings the other day where the sealed courthouse involves a transfer of the case to an Article 1 court. Article 3 sets up SCOTUS and judicial branch, not Article 1. If yes, think of the EO from 7-10-18 might be related. Maybe some dots are here to be connected. Here's a link reference if you want to see the EO for yourself. We've gone over those. Sounds awfully Mueller related, if you ask me, especially considering the recently recovered text from Strzok's phone. This could be very big, folks, and I think this is, if nothing else, the biggest takeaway from it all. This anonymous posted summary of that EO. Earlier this month, President Trump issued an executive order that would allow agency heads to pick whomever they wish to administrative law judges, provided they are active lawyers or judges. Previously, the Office of Personnel Management, OPM, would independently vet candidates and then submit the agencies a short list of potential names. Sounds like POTUS was trying to streamline the hiring process for admin judges, maybe get ready for an influx of cases. Q has told us the judiciary branch is dirty. Maybe white hats are trying to get these cases heard with Article 1 judges to avoid the corrupt, dirty federal judges, and the cabal is fighting back. Wild, huh? Well, I just wanted to make you all aware of this, seeing as none of it would have been picked up upon by the QAnon. Again, use UMMV. I can't remember what he says, but I thought this was compelling enough to report on. Basically, think for yourself. Just keep this in mind. I wanted to take a moment to highlight some recent Gab threads I composed in order to fill you in on some major happenings. So he's just dropping all those links. And to tell you again, follow me over on Gab. I realize it's not quite the same as getting massive articles that take you anywhere from 1 to 6 hours to read, but it does allow me to create nice, digestible mini blogs of sort. He gets into the Q March. Let me read this. Now, honestly, I'd love to get some direct feedback, not only from the Q Army and the Anons out here, but also from Q himself. In mine, I'm just sick of all the hashtag lunatic leftist marches getting all the attention, and I'm tired of hearing some patriots out there in despair. We can help in this scenario. And what better way to make our presence undeniable than taking to the Capitol? I honestly believe we could easily get over 1 million people, if not multiple millions, peaceful marching through the district. And boy, wouldn't that be the force of question. Could you imagine if 1 million QAnon patriots descended upon D.C. and the likes of CNN just closed their eyes and ears and pretend like it wasn't happening? After all, we don't have to sit here and just wait all the time, wait for confirmation, for other players to take action, for other researchers to dig up something interesting. We can take action ourselves and organize something spectacular. But I'm also aware of what kind of target such an event would be, how many security issues there are, and how much opportunities there would be for a subterfuge. I wouldn't want a group of spooks infiltrating with Q shirts and insinuating violence or something horrible or worse. And that kind of reality we're talking about here, folks. I'm also keenly aware of the level of planning and coordination that goes into something like this, so it's certainly not something I could pull off by my lonesome. So here he is, he's talking about a Q March. I thought I already heard something like that in the plans or works or something, but who knows. All right, so that was an interesting article, folks. Neon Revolt. And this Junior Anon, Senator Anon is what he's calling himself. Junior Senator Anon. All right, something to keep in mind, and we'll see if he posts again. I'm going to go ahead and shut this down for now. Again, I'm Michael. This is a Patriot Hour. Thanks for joining in. Please subscribe. If you're not subscribed here on the Patriot Tech for this live feed, hit the subscribe and toggle the switch. Ring the bell. Leave a comment. Same thing here on the Patriot Hour. If you're watching this video that we put out after the live stream or I'm shutting it down, please subscribe. Folks, lots going on. Lots of things happening. I'm going to be here all day doing some research, and anything news, breaking news pops off, I'll be back in a heartbeat to bring it to you. Have a great afternoon. God bless, Godspeed each and every one of you worldwide.